The human princess walked onto the battlefield, and the war paused. Thousands of soldiers moved like clockwork across the ground and through the air, their armor glinting in the dying light. The Zerithians advanced from the east, their sleek, crystalline war machines cutting a terrifying silhouette. From the west, the Varkari surged forward, their muscular forms carrying enormous energy weapons that hummed with power. Somewhere in the middle, humanity watched. It had begun as a simple observation mission. The human Princess Alara stood on the command deck of the Aurora's Pride, her eyes scanning the chaos through a reinforced viewing panel. She was young, only 22, but her mind was sharper than anyone in the human fleet. The galaxy had always underestimated humans. Other species considered them fragile, unpredictable, and easy to ignore. Yet Princess Alara knew the truth. Humanity survived because of adaptability, intelligence, and courage, the very traits that had allowed them to endure countless near-extinctions and emerge stronger each time. "Your Highness," said Commander Ven, stepping forward with a caution that only the war-hardened could maintain. "Sensors show both armies are about to commit orbital strikes. If they proceed, there will be nothing left of the city below. Human casualties could be enormous." Alara's jaw tightened. She clenched her fists, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. "Then we cannot wait," she said, her voice calm but firm. "If humans are to survive, we must act. We cannot hide behind observation posts any longer while entire civilizations burn." Ven hesitated. "It is unprecedented, Your Highness. No human has ever done what they must to survive," Alara interrupted, her eyes narrowing as she studied the battlefield. "We are small. They do not see us as a threat. That is our advantage. The moment we step forward, the galaxy will have to notice humanity." The princess turned away from the viewing panel and strode toward a smaller docking bay where an ancient human warship rested. It was considered obsolete by most standards, a relic of a time when humanity had only just begun exploring the stars. But Alara had insisted on keeping it. Her engineers had secretly upgraded its systems with human innovations, shielding that could absorb energy attacks, engines capable of unpredictable maneuvers, and a navigation system that allowed precise calculations faster than any alien computer. As she stepped onto the bridge of the ship, the hum of the engines welcomed her. It was a comforting sound, one she had known since childhood. The ship had never failed her, and she trusted it now more than she trusted the aliens who claimed dominion over the stars. "Are you certain about this course, Your Highness?" asked Lieutenant Mara, a young officer whose loyalty to Alara had been tested in countless drills. "Going alone into the middle of the battlefield is dangerous." Alara's lips curved into a small smile, but there was no humor in it. "I am certain, Mara. If humans wait for others to recognize our strength, we will remain invisible forever. Sometimes, courage is the only language that commands respect." The lieutenant nodded, though her eyes betrayed worry. She knew Alara's words were true. Humans had survived countless threats precisely because someone dared to step forward when others hesitated. Alara's decision would either inspire or destroy them. With a quiet determination, the princess activated the ship's engines. The hum turned into a roar as the vessel lifted off the deck, leaving the safety of the human fleet behind. She guided it with precision, weaving through the wreckage of destroyed alien crafts and abandoned battlefields. The Zerithians and Varkari barely noticed her at first. A single human ship was nothing compared to the armies they commanded. But as she drew closer, energy readings shifted, and sensors across the battlefield detected an anomaly. The Zerithian commander, a towering figure with crystalline armor, squinted at the readings. "What is that? A single human vessel?" "Yes," said the lieutenant at his side, her voice trembling slightly. It appears to be approaching us without weapons drawn." The commander's eyes narrowed. "Curious, very curious." Meanwhile, the Varkari leader, muscles rippling beneath a plated exoskeleton, frowned as he noticed the same anomaly. "A human," he growled. "Alone. Are they mad?" Alara's ship descended onto the battlefield, the energy shield glowing faintly around it, absorbing stray energy blasts from nearby skirmishes. Soldiers on both sides paused for a moment, unsure how to respond. No human had ever dared this. The audacity alone caused murmurs to ripple through the ranks. Stepping out of the ship, Alara let her presence be known. She carried no weapons, no armor beyond her ceremonial dress, but her posture radiated strength. Her eyes met the commanders of both armies. The sun glinted off her crown, a symbol not just of royalty, but of humanity's unyielding spirit. For a long moment, silence fell. It was almost as if the battlefield itself recognized the significance of this single human standing between tens of thousands of alien soldiers. Alara spoke, her voice calm but powerful enough to carry across the battlefield. "I am Princess Alara of Earth. Humanity has observed your war for generations, and we have remained quiet. But no longer. We will not be collateral damage in your endless conflicts." Her words struck like thunder. Neither the Zorithians nor the Varkari had ever heard a human speak with such authority. Even more, she did not plead or beg. She stated a fact. Humans existed, and they were no longer willing to be ignored. Whispers spread among the soldiers. "The human, she walks unarmed into the middle of war." Some laughed nervously, unable to understand the audacity. Others froze, their minds scrambling to process the implications. Alara took a step forward, raising her hand slightly as if to say, "I am not your enemy, but I will not be dismissed." In the human fleet, Commander Ven held his breath as he watched from afar. "Do not falter, Your Highness," he thought. "Make them see us." The aliens began to debate among themselves. The Zorithian commander gestured to his lieutenants. "She is only one human. She cannot possibly survive the field. Yet there is something in her stance, something unusual." The Varkari leader snarled. "Do you see it? The audacity of a species we have ignored for centuries. Perhaps we should end this quickly before it inspires more humans." Alara remained steady. She knew that intimidation and fear were weapons of the mind. She would not strike first, but she would not retreat. Every human had faced overwhelming odds before, and every time they had survived because they refused to be invisible. As she walked further between the armies, her eyes scanned the battlefield. Energy beams cracked the sky, tanks exploded, and soldiers clashed in brutal combat. Yet none approached her. Her presence forced hesitation. It was the first pause the battlefield had known in weeks. A small group of human medics moved forward cautiously, following behind her ship. They were trained to heal, not fight, yet the aliens' hesitation allowed them to operate in relative safety. Alara's strategy was simple: demonstrate that humanity was intelligent, brave, and capable of controlling the chaos around them. Hours passed, and still she walked. Soldiers from both sides began to whisper stories among themselves. "The human princess moves with the confidence of 1,000 generals. She does not fear us." Some Zorithians lowered their weapons, curious. A few Varkari murmured to one another, unsure whether to attack or wait. Alara stopped in the center of the battlefield, the smoke curling around her like a shroud. She raised her voice once more, addressing both armies. "I do not seek your destruction. I do not seek your submission. But understand this: humanity is no longer a bystander. If you continue to fight blindly, you risk bringing a power into the galaxy you cannot control. We are not weak. We are adaptable, intelligent, and relentless. Ignore us at your own peril." Her words echoed across the battlefield. Silence stretched like a living thing. For the first time, both armies saw beyond their hatred and fear. They saw a species that had survived countless dangers despite being underestimated. Princess Alara stepped forward again, feeling the weight of history on her shoulders. She was not just a symbol of humanity. She was the embodiment of human potential. And for the first time, the aliens realized that this small, fragile species could change the course of the galaxy. Even as night fell on Erendor 9, her silhouette remained in the center of the battlefield, unbroken, unafraid. Somewhere deep within the alien commanders, doubt began to grow. The humans had survived against all odds because they dared to step forward. And tonight, one human princess had done what none had dared before. She had paused a war. The battlefield held its breath. The galaxy had not seen the last of humanity yet, and Princess Alara was determined to ensure that when it did, it would remember their name. And in that pause, a single truth became undeniable. Humans were no longer invisible. They were a force to be reckoned with, and this was only the beginning. The silence across the battlefield was deafening. Princess Alara stood in the center, her calm figure a striking contrast to the chaos surrounding her. Both alien armies had halted, unsure how to react to this single human standing alone. She felt the weight of thousands of eyes on her, yet she did not flinch. She knew that courage, combined with intelligence, could speak louder than weapons. Behind her, her ship hovered lightly, its energy shields faintly glowing. The human medics had begun moving forward, carrying small packs filled with supplies, ready to help anyone in need. Even the aliens noticed this. They had expected humans to cower, hide, or flee. Instead, they were walking among them with calm precision, showing no fear. Alara raised her hand slightly, calling attention to herself. "I do not come as your enemy," she said, her voice carrying across the distance. "I come as a representative of humanity. We have watched your wars and we have remained quiet, but we are no longer silent." The Zorithian commander stepped forward cautiously, his crystalline armor reflecting the flickering light of explosions in the distance. "Why do you intervene, human?" he asked, his voice low and formal. "You are small, weak. Your species has no right to challenge two great civilizations at war." Alara's eyes did not waver. "We are small in size, yes, but humans endure. We adapt. We learn faster than most species, and we act when others hesitate. You have spent centuries fighting, yet you have not considered that humanity might one day stand in your path. I am that path." A low murmur ran through the Varkari ranks. They had underestimated humans for centuries, believing them incapable of influencing interstellar politics. Now a single human princess had forced them to question everything they thought they knew. The Varkari leader, a towering figure with rippling muscles and a plated exoskeleton, narrowed his eyes. "You speak boldly," he said. "Words will not stop this war. Weapons do." Alara did not move her hands. She did not carry a weapon, and yet, in that moment, her presence felt more threatening than the largest cannons on either side. "Then perhaps you are too slow to understand," she said quietly. "Humans have survived every threat because we do not rely only on weapons. We rely on strategy, creativity, and the courage to act when others hesitate." The commanders exchanged glances, uncertain how to proceed. Neither wanted to admit that this small human could possibly influence the outcome of the war. But still, the battlefield remained still. Even the loudest energy blasts had stopped. Alara took another step forward, confident, deliberate. "I offer no challenge today. I offer no aggression. I am here to show that humans are no longer invisible. If you continue this destruction, you risk awakening a power you cannot control. That power is us." Her words hung in the air like a tangible force. Soldiers on both sides shifted uneasily. Some lowered their weapons, unsure whether to attack or wait. Even the commanders began to feel doubt creeping in. From her ship, Lieutenant Mara monitored energy readings carefully. "Your Highness," she said quietly, "the aliens are confused. They don't understand what we are capable of. This is our advantage." Alara nodded. "Good, let them learn. Let them see that humans are not easy to predict." The first test came unexpectedly. A small group of Zorithian shock troops advanced, curious but cautious. They fired a few energy blasts at the princess, testing her defenses. Alara did not run. She activated the ship's shield remotely, creating a dome of energy around herself and the medics. The blast struck the shield and fizzled harmlessly, leaving her standing calmly inside. The Varkari soldiers watched in disbelief. "How?" one of them whispered. "Nothing should survive that." Alara stepped forward, her calmness unwavering. "This is human ingenuity," she said softly, almost to herself. "We take what exists and make it better. We survive where others fail." Word spread quickly across the battlefield. Humans were not just brave, they were clever. They could turn even old technology into something new, something the aliens had never imagined. The pause in the fighting lengthened as commanders on both sides began reassessing their strategies. Alara saw an opening. She moved closer to the Varkari leader, unarmed, her posture steady and confident. "I do not seek war with either of you," she said. "But if you continue, we will have no choice but to defend ourselves, and you will not be able to stop us." The Varkari leader frowned. He had been in countless battles, yet he had never faced an opponent like this. He had expected fear or perhaps submission. Instead, he saw resolve. He saw a species that refused to be dismissed. The Zerithian commander finally spoke again. "Your words are bold, human," he said, "but why should we believe you? You are alone and your forces are minimal." Alara's eyes glinted. "I am not alone. Every human on Earth has faced threats that seemed impossible. We have survived famine, disease, war, and extinction. Our strength is not measured by numbers alone, but by our will to endure. You will soon see that we are more than you imagine." In that moment, a subtle shift occurred on the battlefield. Alien soldiers began lowering their weapons slightly. Not all, but enough to notice. Confusion spread among the ranks. They had trained for combat against each other, but never against something as unpredictable as human courage. Alara walked between the armies slowly, deliberately. Her movement was measured, showing no fear. Behind her, human medics treated wounded soldiers from both sides, demonstrating humanity's willingness to help, even when the rest of the galaxy had ignored them. The first significant reaction came from a group of Varkari engineers who had been observing from a distance. They whispered among themselves as they watched the human ship. "It is not just the shield," one said. "The energy pattern it adapts. It responds faster than anything we have seen." The Zerithian commander noticed the same thing. "This is impossible," he muttered. "A human creation, and it functions better than our machines." Alara smiled slightly, sensing the moment was right. She activated the ship's communication system and broadcast a message across the battlefield, audible to both armies. "See what humans can achieve," she said. "We are not weak, we do not hide, we adapt, we endure, and we act when others falter." The battlefield seemed to respond. Soldiers hesitated. Energy blasts slowed. Even the commanders felt the unspoken power of human resilience. For the first time, they realized that humans were not just observers. They were a force that could no longer be ignored. Alara continued moving forward, addressing both alien leaders directly. "I am only one human," she said, her voice steady. "But humanity is many. And we will not be collateral damage in a war we do not fight. If you value life, you will pause and reconsider your actions. If not, we will survive anyway." The words carried weight. Across centuries of conflict, neither the Zerithians nor the Varkari had seen an opponent so fearless, so intelligent, so unwavering. Even in the midst of their hatred and anger, they began to recognize a different kind of power, one that relied not on brute force, but on the mind, the spirit, and the courage to act. A small Zerithian unit approached cautiously, testing whether Alara's claims were true. They fired a few energy blasts at her, but the shield absorbed them all. Then, a Varkari scout attempted to rush forward, only to find their path blocked by a human medic calmly stepping into the line of sight. The alien froze, unsure whether to attack or retreat. Alara seized the moment. She raised her hands and spoke again, addressing both armies as one. "Look at what humans can achieve. We are not the weakest. We are not invisible. We are capable of things you do not expect, and we will continue to grow stronger with every challenge we face." The pause deepened. Alien soldiers began to murmur among themselves. "Could it be that humans are not what we thought?" one Zorithian asked. "Are they dangerous?" "Yes," another replied, "but in a way we do not understand." Alara stepped closer to the front lines. Her eyes met those of individual soldiers, one by one. She saw fear, uncertainty, and curiosity reflected back at her. And she saw potential for understanding, for change, for a new perspective in a galaxy that had long underestimated humanity. Hours passed. The battle had not resumed, yet the princess did not falter. She remained in the center of the field, demonstrating the human ability to endure, to adapt, and to inspire even in the face of overwhelming odds. Her calm presence, her clever strategies, and her refusal to be intimidated began to turn the tide, not through weapons but through example. By the time the suns dipped below the horizon, a strange thing had occurred. The commanders of both armies called their units back slightly, forming a cautious perimeter. They were still wary, still planning for battle, but they had begun to see humans differently. The species they had dismissed as weak and insignificant now demanded attention. Princess Alara looked out over the battlefield, her mind already racing with plans for what would come next. She knew that stopping a war with courage alone was only the first step. Next, she would need to show that humans could not only survive, they could lead, strategize, and innovate in ways that no alien species had ever imagined. For now, though, the battlefield remained still. And in that stillness, a single truth became clear. Humanity was no longer invisible. It was small, yes, but it was intelligent, resourceful, and unyielding. And with Princess Alara leading the way, the galaxy would soon have to acknowledge that humans were a force unlike any other. The battlefield of Erendor 9 remained eerily silent, the echoes of explosions fading into the distance. Princess Alara stood at the center, her posture calm, almost regal, yet every inch of her radiated determination. Both alien armies had paused, unsure how to respond to a human who refused to be ignored. She had not come merely to survive. She had come to prove that humans were more than fragile observers. Behind her, the human medics continued their careful work, tending to wounded soldiers from both sides. Their actions were deliberate, precise, and surprisingly effective. Small energy shields deployed to protect the injured, and basic medical techniques combined with human ingenuity kept countless soldiers alive. Even the aliens could not ignore it. Humans were clever, resourceful, and unafraid to act. Alara's eyes scanned the battlefield, taking note of the alien commanders who remained in tense discussion with their officers. Their expressions were unreadable, but the subtle signs were there. The slight hesitation in their movements, the way they held their weapons loosely rather than pointing them at her. She knew she had their attention, but attention alone was not enough. She needed to demonstrate that humans were more than just brave. They were capable of outthinking the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. Taking a deep breath, Alara activated the human ship's communication system, broadcasting a message directly to the alien commanders. "I am Princess Alara of Earth," she said, her voice firm yet calm. "You have seen that humans are not fragile. We do not cower. We do not flee. We act when it matters most. But that is only the beginning. Humanity has survived threats you cannot imagine. And we will continue to survive because we are clever, adaptable, and unyielding." A murmur spread across the battlefield. Soldiers from both armies glanced at each other in disbelief. No one expected a human to speak with such authority. Even the commanders were forced to reconsider their assumptions. The Zorithian commander, crystalline armor glinting in the dimming sunlight, stepped forward. "Your words are bold, human," he said slowly. "But words cannot stop this war. Only weapons can." Alara's gaze did not falter. "Then perhaps you underestimate what humans consider weapons," she replied. "Weapons are not only steel and energy. They are ideas, they are strategy, they are courage and ingenuity combined. Watch closely." With a subtle gesture, she directed the ship's controls. The energy shields around her expanded outward, forming a moving barrier that protected not just her ship but a wide area of the battlefield. Alien blasts that would have destroyed smaller vehicles fizzled harmlessly against the shield. The human medics and nearby soldiers moved within it, safe from harm. The Varkari commander growled, muscles tensing under his plated exoskeleton. "Impossible," he said. "No human creation should withstand even half the energy output we are using, yet it does." "How?" Alara smiled faintly, a small acknowledgement of the truth. "Because humans do not rely only on raw power," she said. "We improve, adapt, and innovate. We use what we have and we make it better. You have fought for centuries thinking only in strength. That is your weakness." A group of Varkari scouts moved closer, testing the limits of the shield. Their weapons discharged volleys of energy, but the shield responded instantly, adapting its structure to absorb and redirect the attacks. The soldiers froze in disbelief, unsure whether to continue. Even the alien engineers, observing from a distance, whispered among themselves. "This is beyond any known technology," one muttered. "It adapts, it thinks, it responds faster than anything in our arsenal." Alara walked steadily between the alien lines, her movements deliberate, her presence commanding. She made no threats, carried no weapons, yet she radiated authority. Soldiers from both sides watched her, some lowering their weapons, others unsure of what to do next. She stopped near the Varkari leader, raising her hand slightly as if to demonstrate openness. "I do not wish to fight you," she said calmly. "I only wish for you to understand humanity. We are not weak. We are not simple. We are capable of things you have never imagined. And if you continue this war without regard for us, you will soon regret it." The Varkari leader narrowed his eyes. "Why should we believe you? You are only one human. How can you possibly represent an entire species?" Alara's gaze hardened. "Because humans have faced far greater odds than what you see here. We have survived famine, disease, war, and near extinction. We endure because we think, because we adapt, because we act when others hesitate. I am here as a demonstration of that spirit, and the galaxy will soon see that humans are a force to be reckoned with." A tense silence fell over the battlefield. The alien commanders began to realize that this was no ordinary species. Humans were underestimated at their own peril. For centuries, they had ignored humanity, assuming weakness where there was ingenuity, courage, and determination. Alara knew this moment was critical. She needed to show more than words. She needed to show humans' creativity and intelligence. With a gesture, she activated a small series of devices on her ship, releasing a network of energy drones that moved with uncanny precision. They scanned the battlefield, identified hazardous zones, and created temporary energy barriers to prevent stray blasts from hitting civilians and soldiers alike. The aliens watched in awe. Never had they seen such coordination, such clever use of technology from a single species. Even their advanced AI systems could not match the adaptability of the drones. "This is unprecedented," a Zorithian lieutenant muttered. "No one has ever done this before. Not in centuries of war." Alara stepped forward, addressing both commanders directly. "This is only the beginning," she said. "Humans are not only capable of surviving, we can lead, innovate, and change the course of battles without spilling unnecessary blood. Imagine what humanity could do if you treated us as equals instead of dismissing us." Her words struck a chord. Even the soldiers began to murmur among themselves, reconsidering the assumptions they had been taught for generations. Could humans truly be more than they seemed? Could a species so small and fragile actually hold power beyond measure? The first serious test came from a group of Varkari warriors who attempted to advance toward the princess. They were confident that they could strike her before the shield could respond. But human ingenuity was faster. The drones detected their movement instantly, creating barriers that redirected their path and blocked their weapons. The soldiers were forced to stop, confused and frustrated. Alara did not flinch. She walked steadily forward, her calm demeanor unnerving even the most seasoned warriors. "Observe," she said. "Humans do not merely react. We anticipate, we adapt, we endure, and we survive." The Zorithian commander finally spoke again, his voice tinged with something like respect. "You are extraordinary human, not because of strength but because of intelligence, courage, and adaptability. Perhaps we have underestimated your species for too long." Alara's eyes softened slightly. "You are beginning to understand, but this is not about respect alone. This is about survival for both humans and your species. Cease this war and we can find solutions together. Continue, and you may awaken a force you cannot control." A quiet tension spread across the battlefield. Soldiers on both sides exchanged uneasy glances. Many lowered their weapons, uncertain how to proceed. Even the commanders hesitated, knowing that the human before them was no ordinary opponent. The princess moved between the lines again, speaking to individual soldiers, her voice calm and persuasive. "You fight because you are told to fight. You kill because you are told to kill. But look around. Look at what humans can do when we choose intelligence over blind aggression. You can survive. You can act. You can be more than a weapon of war." Some soldiers hesitated. Some dropped their weapons entirely, unsure whether to follow orders that now seemed meaningless in the presence of such clear evidence of human ingenuity. The pause continued to deepen. Alara directed the drones to extend protective fields across the battlefield, ensuring that any accidental or hostile attacks could not reach the human medics or civilians in the vicinity. The aliens watched in disbelief. Humans were not only surviving, they were controlling the chaos with calm precision. "This species," whispered a Varkari officer, "they are not merely surviving, they are commanding the battlefield without striking a single blow." The Zorithian commander nodded slowly. "It is not just strength or technology. It is courage, adaptability, and intelligence combined. Humanity is dangerous in ways we cannot predict." Alara stepped to the very center of the battlefield, standing tall and calm. Her voice carried over the battlefield, firm but measured. "This is only the beginning. Humanity will survive. We will endure. And we will continue to grow stronger. If you wish to avoid a war that neither of you can control, you will listen. You will pause. And you will consider what humans can accomplish, not with violence but with intelligence, courage, and determination." By the time the suns dipped below the horizon, the battlefield had transformed. The pause that Alara had created was no longer tentative, it was deliberate. Both armies were observing humans in a new light. What had been dismissed as small and weak was now recognized as clever, courageous, and unyielding. Princess Alara stood in the center, watching as alien soldiers slowly lowered their weapons. She had demonstrated that humans were more than observers. They were innovators, survivors, and a force capable of changing the outcome of even the most brutal wars. The commanders exchanged quiet words among themselves, reassessing centuries of assumptions. Humans were no longer invisible. They were no longer weak, and one young princess had shown them that. Alara knew that the next step would be even more challenging. She would need to negotiate, to prove that humans could not only survive but lead and inspire. But for now, she allowed herself a small moment of satisfaction. The battlefield had paused, and for the first time, humanity was seen not as prey, but as a force that could shape the galaxy's future. Even in the deepening night, the figure of Princess Alara remained steadfast and calm, a beacon of human courage and ingenuity. She had proven that a single human could change the course of war, not with weapons, but with intelligence, bravery, and an unshakable will. And as the stars appeared above Erendor 9, the galaxy began to reconsider everything it thought it knew about humanity. The battlefield of Erendor 9 was unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. Where there had once been chaos, there was now an uneasy silence. The suns had set, leaving the field bathed in the pale light of distant stars, flickering through the smoke of destroyed war machines. Princess Alara stood at the center, calm and unshakable, the human medics and their small fleet behind her. She had achieved the impossible. She had forced two warring civilizations to pause and consider humanity. Yet Alara knew the most difficult part was ahead. Pausing a war was one thing, negotiating peace and demonstrating humanity's true value was another. She surveyed the alien commanders, both of whom approached cautiously, their expressions a mixture of skepticism and curiosity. "You have done what no one expected," the Zerithian commander said. His crystalline armor caught the dim starlight, glinting with subtle colors. "You are one human, yet you have caused armies to hesitate. Explain yourself." Alara's gaze was steady. "I acted because humans will no longer be invisible in the galaxy," she said. "We have survived threats that seemed impossible, and we endure because we adapt, think, and act when others hesitate. This is our strength. It is not just survival, it is understanding, innovation, and the courage to act morally, even in the midst of chaos." The Varkari leader snorted, though his muscles remained tense with caution. "Words are easy. Actions are what matter. Prove to us that humans are not merely clever, they are capable of guiding this galaxy toward reason instead of endless destruction." Alara smiled faintly. "That is exactly what I intend to do." She turned to her ship and signaled the drones. They expanded their protective fields across the battlefield, carefully covering wounded soldiers from both sides. The energy barriers shifted and adapted in real time, blocking stray energy blasts and redirecting attacks safely away. The commanders watched in disbelief. "You see," Alara said, "human ingenuity does not rely solely on brute force. We observe, analyze, and act. We protect life even when it is inconvenient. Our strength is in our adaptability, our intelligence, and our courage to act ethically when others might not." The Zerithian commander exchanged a glance with the Varkari leader. For the first time, both understood that this human species was unlike any other. Their history of conquest, of measuring power only by the size of armies and the strength of weapons, had blinded them. Humans measured power differently. Their strength was in thinking, in creativity, and in the moral clarity to act decisively when it mattered most. Alara took a step forward. "I offer a proposal," she said, her voice steady. "A temporary ceasefire. We will assist both your forces in ensuring the safety of civilians and soldiers alike. You will recognize humanity's role in the galaxy and consider our perspective before continuing further conflict. If you agree, we can prevent unnecessary loss and learn from one another." The Varkari leader frowned. "And if we refuse, then the consequences will fall upon those who underestimate humanity," Alara replied calmly. "You have seen what a single human can do. Imagine what an entire species can achieve when underestimated." A quiet tension spread across the battlefield. Soldiers shifted uneasily, weapons lowering slightly. The human medics continued their work, calmly moving between wounded Zerithians and Varkari alike. Slowly, hesitation turned into curiosity. Could humans truly be more than observers, more than fragile creatures to ignore? The Zerithian commander finally nodded. "Very well, human, we will accept this ceasefire for now. But know this, we are watching." If your species proves itself reckless, the consequences will be severe. Alara inclined her head slightly. Fair enough, she said. But remember, humans survive because we act when necessary. We do not rely on fear or intimidation alone. We rely on intelligence, ingenuity, and the will to endure. The Varkari leader finally lowered his weapon, a gesture of cautious respect. This species, he muttered. They are not merely surviving, they are influencing the course of war without striking a single blow. Alara allowed herself a small smile. Humans are capable of much more than you imagine, and this is only the beginning. With the ceasefire in place, Alara and her medics moved forward to assist the wounded. They treated Zorithians and Varkari alike, sharing basic human medical knowledge and innovative techniques that even the alien engineers could not anticipate. Energy barriers protected the injured, and the drones coordinated evacuation of those too badly injured to move. As the night deepened, soldiers from both sides began observing humanity more closely. They noticed not only the skill of their actions, but also the courage and moral clarity that humans exhibited. They were willing to protect life even when it meant taking risks. They did not kill recklessly. They did not exploit weakness. They acted with purpose, precision, and compassion. The commanders gathered closer, cautiously observing the humans in action. Both the Zorithians and the Varkari realized that humanity could no longer be ignored. They were clever, adaptive, and capable of changing the outcome of battles without deploying traditional weapons. Alara knew that demonstration alone was not enough. She needed dialogue, reasoning, and strategy. She called the commanders together, arranging a neutral zone within the human protective fields. There, for the first time, humans, Zorithians, and Varkari would meet not as enemies but as negotiators. "Sit," she instructed, her voice calm but firm. "We will discuss the future, not with destruction but with understanding." The commanders hesitated, unsure whether to trust a human princess. Yet her calm authority, her unwavering presence, and the undeniable proof of human ingenuity forced them to comply. They sat within the protective field, observing her closely as she laid out her plan. "Humanity has survived because we do not rely solely on power," Alara began. "We rely on intelligence, strategy, and morality. These qualities have allowed us to endure threats that would have destroyed other species. You have seen what one human can do. Imagine an entire species applying these principles across the galaxy." The Zorithian commander leaned forward. "And what do you expect from us?" "Respect and acknowledgement," Alara replied. "We do not seek to dominate. We seek to ensure that humanity is not ignored, that we are allowed to survive and contribute. There is wisdom in cooperation. There is strength in understanding. We can help you prevent further destruction and save countless lives if you are willing to listen." The Varkari leader, still wary, crossed his massive arms. "And what assurance do we have that humans will act in good faith?" Alara's gaze did not waver. "You have it already," she said. "I have protected your soldiers today. I have ensured that civilians are unharmed. Every action I have taken has been to preserve life, not to dominate or destroy. That is the assurance I give you. If you continue to fight recklessly, it will not be humans who suffer first, it will be you." The commanders exchanged quiet words, acknowledging her logic. Both had seen too much today to ignore the reality. Humans were not only survivors but innovators, capable of influencing events in ways neither species had anticipated. As dawn approached, the ceasefire held firm. The battlefield, once a scene of destruction and death, now became a place of cautious cooperation. The aliens began sharing basic information with humans, allowing them to assist in reconstruction and recovery. Engineers from both sides were intrigued by human technology and strategy, noting the adaptability and creativity of their designs. Alara directed human medics to establish a neutral zone where wounded soldiers could recover, regardless of species. She instructed drones to provide temporary energy shields and medical supplies, ensuring that no one suffered unnecessarily. Slowly, trust began to form, even if tenuous. Soldiers whispered among themselves. "Humans, they are not what we thought," one Zerithian remarked. "They are clever, brave, and capable of leading," a Varkari soldier nodded. "They act with intelligence and morality. That is rare in war. Perhaps humans are the species we should study, not fight." Alara observed this quietly. She knew that recognition and respect were as important as victory. Humans had survived by showing the galaxy that strength was not only measured in weapons, but in courage, intelligence, and ethical action. Hours passed, and the alien commanders began to discuss long-term arrangements. Temporary alliances, shared strategies for civilian protection, and cooperative exploration of the battlefield's resources were all proposed. Princess Alara facilitated the dialogue, carefully guiding the conversation to ensure that humans were not sidelined. By midday, the ceasefire had transformed into something more profound. Humans were no longer observers of galactic conflict. They were participants, respected and cautiously trusted by even the most formidable alien civilizations. Alara stood on a rise overlooking the battlefield, the twin suns rising once again behind her. She felt the weight of centuries of human survival, ingenuity, and courage pressing down, not as a burden, but as a source of strength. Humanity had survived the greatest test yet, proving that they could influence the galaxy not through fear, but through intelligence, adaptability, and moral clarity. The battlefield was quiet now, not because the war had ended entirely, but because the galaxy had learned something new. Humans were no longer fragile, insignificant, or invisible. They were a species capable of changing the course of events with courage, creativity, and determination. Princess Alara knew that this was only the beginning. Humanity's journey among the stars would be long and filled with challenges, but the lesson was clear: underestimate humans at your own peril. They could endure, adapt, and rise in ways the galaxy had never imagined. As she turned back to her fleet, the medics and the surviving soldiers, Alara allowed herself a small, quiet smile. She had done what no one expected. She had walked alone onto a battlefield and paused a war. She had shown that humans were not only survivors but innovators, leaders, and a force capable of shaping the galaxy's future. And with that, Princess Alara led her people forward, not with weapons, but with intelligence, courage, and the unyielding spirit of humanity. The galaxy would never forget the day a human princess walked onto a battlefield and changed the course of history forever. The human princess walked onto the battlefield, and the war paused.